So what is the big myth about seller leads? Well, in 2023, the number of sales in the United States was actually less than the number of sales in 2008. And what we did is we started scripting these huge webinars with very custom offers, targeting things like sellers, targeting things like specific types of buyers, move up, move down, you name it. And part of the goal with that for a lot of people was to actually generate more sellers. But you know what the end result of all of that was? Is it didn't actually work any better than what we're gonna show you in this video.
Simple scales and fancy fails. Oftentimes, try and get too fancy with your marketing, you're going to find that you've overcomplicated it, not only for yourself, but for the audience. Folks will go to great lengths, ourselves included, to try and crack the code on a more effective seller lead. But ultimately, we have seen the same things work time and time again, and that's what we're here to talk about in this video. And they work for simple reasons. If you really break down what a seller lead is, a seller lead is somebody with intent to move. That's also a buyer. Those two things are the same. If you are a real estate agent, you are looking for people that have intent to transact. Sometimes that can be a first-time buyer, of course, but if it's not, then the likelihood that they have something to sell is quite high.
Yeah, and I think that was really the problem of 2023 was like you could generate all the seller leads in the world, but if you can't find them something to buy, they're not going to move. And so we had a lot of clients who experienced that, and that's where, again, we were like, okay, how can we get creative to solve this problem? And at the end of the day, it is the core things that still work best.
Now that we've got the groundwork out of the way, let's dive into the tangible strategies that will work for you now to generate seller leads. How do you generate sellers through Google? Well, the answer to this question is not with a home valuation campaign. You can, and actually previously, home valuation campaigns on Google worked really, really well. I would say up until about 2 years ago. What happened is the seller leads boom. These keywords that people used to target on Google for home valuations, they become very expensive. In some markets, unattainably so. To put it in perspective as well, there is simply a lower search volume of folks who go to Google and search home valuation related keywords like what's my home worth, free home valuation. These are just some variations, of course, but overall, the search volume there is quite small. In most markets, there's an average of around 1,000 people per month searching keywords related to buying homes, which, like we said, can also be sellers. Do you want to align with a search term that thousands are searching, or a smaller, more competitive and oversaturated keyword like the keywords we see for sellers? The seller piece of the Google pie right now is small and expensive, and also not as effective as the home search campaign route.
Yeah, and to add to that, so everyone understands, like with Google, there's way more people searching for homes on Google than searching for home valuations. And a lot of people don't know this, but Zillow's primary traffic source is still Google. Still people searching in Google for homes. And so when you're advertising on Google, you're paying per click, or pay per click as people call it. And generally a click for homes for sale or detached homes for sale in Austin, Texas might be $1 per click. Maybe it's $1.50. Say it's $1.50. Every 10 people who click on your ad and go to your website, one of them signs up. So then you have $15 per lead. Home valuation ads are like $5 to $15, sometimes more per click. And a lot of these clicks are simply other agents searching for, hey, should I be running one of these ads? The thing I always say is just because someone else is doing something does not mean it's successful. Google home valuation funnels are actually not that effective. We actually find way more success doing this on Facebook, and especially doing this as a retargeting strategy to the search-based leads we've generated on Google. So you can go ahead in some markets like San Francisco, we saw upwards of like $60 per click on these types of keywords. We really noticed this during COVID when everyone wanted sellers because it became hard to find something to buy. And so everyone started crowding the seller market space. And that's when the cost per click just went way up because there's way more advertisers bidding on those keywords because it is an auction. And it just got really expensive and the economics just didn't work out as well. So that's why we say when a lot of people come in trying to market to sellers on the front end, it actually it's not the right strategy in 2024.
Ultimately, we looked at the data. We can't argue with the data and the results that we see. The results right now are pointing us in the direction of Facebook for that home valuation funnel, where you also have the benefit of retargeting, and the home search campaign on Google to attract both buyers and sellers.
Yeah, and this is what we do for our clients today, because we're always updating our program to focus on what's working now. And it's about generating high volume of people looking for homes in your local market, knowing that 30% of them have something to sell, and then retargeting them with both Google, but also Facebook to a home valuation funnel, and specifically one that we create, because a lot of them I don't think are designed quite well, where you actually collect the email and the address at the same time. Because a lot of the ones where you just collect the address, they just go to the next step and then they don't put in any information, because a lot of people ask for too much information on that second step, and now all you have is an address. For us, we get the email and the address on the first page so that we can actually have a chance of sending them the value that they're going to open that we spoke about. That's where you can do those kind of CMAs. Obviously, they're requesting it, but if they don't fill out the rest of their information, you still have their email and their address, so you can still send them something to give them a rough idea of what their home's worth. And likelihood is they're going to open and watch that. 76% of people end up working with the first agent they talk to. So it's really about getting at bats. It's about getting to that first step to have that conversation before another agent gets the chance to, and that buyer or seller becomes pot committed, if you will, with that person. So if we can get in front of them, the buyer ad, as people like to call it, but I call it a search ad, people are searching for homes, and we can generate that lead, and then you follow up with them with material that would appeal to a seller. So you start sending them tips on like different ways they can sell their home, or things they can do to upgrade their home, or case studies and examples of you getting in a premium value for someone's house. These are all things a seller would love to see and might engage with you over. So when we talk about generating the lead up front with buyer leads, with search leads, it's about what happens after that. One of the things we love to do is a CMA over BombBomb. So you send like, what seller wouldn't open that email when you're giving them like a range valuation of their home, and then you're plugging in that, hey, if you want a real valuation, we're probably gonna have to come to your property and check it out a little bit, but here's roughly a range based on what's sold. Every seller on the planet is gonna look at that email. So it's about catering your message at step 2, not necessarily step 1. And if you do this well, then you're staying top of mind. You're slowly building yourself up as the go-to agent that they would want to work with, even if they haven't engaged with you. And it's really funny. People are paying attention whether you think they are or not. And a lot of people don't realize this when they're like, wow, I had this person, they were opening every email for 9 months, and then out of the blue one day, they called me and said, I want to list my home. It's not magic. They've been following you because you've been doing the right things, even though you haven't been getting the feedback that you've been doing the right things. And that's where people a lot of the time get lost, is it's a long game. We just did a coaching call with our sales coach last week, and they talked about their newsletter. They sent it out to 20,000 people now. It gets a 70% open rate. And it took a year and a bit for them to really see the dividends that was paying, because a lot of people are opening and sharing it, but they're not engaging right away. And you got to understand that this is a long game, and you're not always going to get that positive feedback right away. But if you do it consistently over time, you become that go-to person in people's heads, especially if they're seeing you around the internet. They're seeing you in their inbox. Maybe you're calling them. Maybe they're seeing you in person. Like Haley said, maybe you start sending them some postcards and things. Maybe they see your sign in the ground around the corner. All these things add up to create an omnipresent strategy. And I think that is the new age way to do seller or listing focused marketing.
Even with the NAR settlement, the agents that are freaking out right now are the ones that don't have those newsletters, the ones that don't see consistent engagement, the ones that aren't thinking about it from a holistic standpoint or from a long-term perspective. Ones freaking out saying that buyer commission is dead and no one has a crystal ball. We can't see into the future. Of course, the NAR settlement has shaken things up. That is undeniable. But this particular video is so important for anyone who has been shaken up by that. The reality is that you want to be working with people. If you're focused on serving people who have real estate needs, then in my opinion, this settlement should not shake you. This still gives you ample opportunity to partner with people who are looking to both buy and sell. A lot of the time, seller leads are not going to be easy leads to crack. You are going to need to take more time. You're going to need to put together CMAs. You're going to need to leverage the equity that this person has in their home to convince them that this is a good idea. Retargeting is obviously a huge part of generating seller leads. Long-term strategies are a huge part of generating seller leads, period. Retargeting is a long-term strategy. Building a database of Google leads with high intent, as well as having a Facebook strategy that is targeted to sellers, which is what we do at Agent Launch. That's going to build a retargeting audience that we can leverage for months and years to come. It's about doing all of those things and doing them over the long term. If you really want to maximize your chances of success, layer on some additional seller-focused strategies like direct mail, like unsolicited comparative market analysis via video. The second thing you can do is employ off-market prospecting strategies and build an exclusive database of off-market homes. This is going to increase your options for all of your clients, but hopefully help you turn some of those stubborn sellers into sellers by pairing them with that perfect property. And we've already talked about how the best way to generate a seller or a listing for yourself can often be to service that seller as a buyer and find them their next home. Make it impossible for them to refuse this amazing home that you have found, and that can secure the listing and also make this person very happy. What are a few ways that you can potentially generate off-market leads and increase the number of properties that you have access to? There are a few different ways. You can put out a consider selling letter. That's a direct mail strategy where you are reaching out to a neighborhood and using that buyer proposition, asking sellers if they would consider selling under the right circumstances and letting them know that you have a buyer who's interested in a home in their neighborhood now. Make it very simple for them to reach out to you, and it can be a very simple letter that gets sent to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people.
Haley, you've actually done this at scale. So do you want to talk about some of the nitty-gritty details around that with handwritten versus printed and all of that?
For sure. And I've always, even with this strategy, again, fancy fails and simple scales. I have tried handwritten, beautiful cards, colored envelopes, the gamut. The most opened version of my direct mail letters was a blank envelope that had Dear Homeowner stamped on the front of it. And we would also address the letters to Dear Homeowner. This approach allowed us to create and stuff thousands of envelopes. We were able to increase our volume quite significantly. It takes a long time if you're handwriting all those cards. And with that, it's also the letter that got us the most responses. So very simple and not personalized, but just a blank envelope with Dear Homeowner stamped right on the front. If we sent out a letter and didn't get at least 4 or 5 phone calls from it, then everyone was questioning whether or not the mail screwed up, essentially.
And how many were you sending in each batch for that? Because obviously with direct mail, it's a lot harder to track because you're just taking in phone calls. But how many were you sending out to get about 4 or 5 phone calls?
How I did it was through Canada Post. So in Canada Post, they have something called mail walks. And each mail walk in our area was around, I would say, 500 homes. And we would try and send to 6 or 7 mail walks. So we were always sending in the thousands. I definitely think that if you want to get a result, you want to target a few different mail walks, and in the thousands would be where I would recommend. Don't send out 20 letters and think you're going to get a response.
I think this is an important point. Like, a lot of people try things and then they're really quick to pause them, and you look into it deeper. And it's the same with Google Ads. It's the same with any type of lead generation strategy. You have to do them at a meaningful scale over a meaningful time horizon to actually see the results. And what's very rampant in real estate is people are very quick to say something doesn't work. Then they're very quick to tell their friends too that something doesn't work. Oh, I tried it didn't work. And I'm like, you have to, I always find this funny because you have to look at the person as much as the company or the strategy that executed it. Because a lot of times the person that nothing's working for, it might be that person.
If you aren't aware of Zillow FSBO already, there is actually a specific section of Zillow that is only for sale by owners. That means you can prospect as an agent these for sale by owners. Of course, that's a different type of seller lead, but if you're looking and you do see a volume of these in your market, this is a strategy that we know works well for agents now. the seller's information is actually going to be listed because they are representing themselves. So that's as simple as, and again, it's dependent on your area, but you can literally go to Zillow.com, go to their for sale by owner section, and you will be able to, from that, essentially generate a prospecting list. It's not anything that's going to be automatic, so there is some effort required. But the feedback on them, of course, is that these are people who've decided to sell themselves, but regardless, they want to sell. So if you feel like you are an agent that thrives or has experience converting for sale by owners, then this is definitely something that you want to test out.
Yeah, an interesting way to approach that too would be to just straight up make a recommendation to a seller to say, hey, I just letting you know to help you, but that I think your property's overpriced and you're probably not going to get a lot of action. I'd recommend lowering it, creating a bidding war, and you'll probably get a little more. I don't know how much interest you've got yet, but I just wanted to let you know as a professional, if you plan to list it yourself, that would be my recommendation.
It's true. And a strategy that I know our coach Riley Nichols uses in Calgary with for sale by owners is he will let them know that he has a buyer. He'll approach for sale by owners that he knows he has a client for, but he'll build his commission into that to make sure he's getting paid on it. The next strategy that you definitely want to consider is the annual equity health check. Think of all of your previous buyers, and I do hope you have them categorized in some kind of CRM, but how much have all of their homes that they've purchased increased in value? Have they heard from you? And if not, this is the perfect opportunity to reach out and let them know that you are conducting for them a complimentary annual equity health check. What is that? Well, it's a CMA. It's a comparative market analysis that you are going to, of course, perform for them. This is simply a CMA for them to understand the current value of their home.
And I think the key to this strategy is to not make it salesy. Like, don't ask them if they want to list their home. Don't even make an ask, just give. And just give them an updated value on their home equity, and do that every year. You'd be surprised how often people will share that and say, look what my agent does for me. And they just love hearing an honest report about what their home's worth. I mean, again, going back to the same logic, what kind of seller or homeowner wouldn't open that and watch that? Everyone would. And that's the power of it, is just delivering value without expecting an immediate return from it will really serve you well in the long term. So if you guys are interested in working with Agent Launch, there's a link down in the description. You can book a call with me and we can talk through your unique situation and see if our program is right for you. Until then, we'll see you in the next video.